Right. So, what's it like to be a child during middle childhood? Child culture is a term that includes all the customs and rules and regulations of how do children interact with each other during middle childhood. It's those unspoken rules that are passed by older children to younger children. It's those jump rope rhymes, the slang and the insults and the superstitions that are used that only children understand during that stage, and parents sometimes cannot relate to. Appearance is a big part of child culture. So when mom is going to buy clothes, usually it's the child demands that they be there, or they make the choice, because if mom happened to buy the clothes, they might be too short or too tight or too loose, or just the wrong color or the wrong brand name. So there's a lot of emphasis on how the person looks, because that is a predictor of acceptance into the group. So friends are very important, and social acceptance is very important as well. This culture also values language, so there's a lot of codes that are spoken between children during this stage. Sometimes they're approved by parents, and sometimes parents might be shocked at what kind of language their children are using, if it involves certain curses or accents or slangs. Child culture encourages independence, and that's an extension of that autonomy that they are experiencing, an industry that they're experiencing. So, if you're my friend, you're supposed to keep secrets from your parents and your teachers, and that's why it's an insult if you're found to be a tattletale or a rat or a snitch, and it's not you're not supposed to be. Also connected or attached to adults. You're more attractive if you are defying authority. So you can't be a mama's boy, you can't be a teacher's pet, and a parent cannot be kissing their child goodbye at drop off. That would be absolutely not acceptable within child culture. As we said, friendships are very important, and they actually are a healthy part of development during this stage. We want children to make connections, we want them to have friendships, and teachers who try to separate friends are actually doing a disservice to children during this stage, because the better the friendships, the better the developmental growth, the better the protection against psychopathology. There are certain gender differences that we see during this stage. So boys tend to gravitate towards boys and play more active games. Girls tend to gravitate toward girls and use more of a talk and secret sharing style of play. Now, at the span of middle childhood, you're going to see at the beginning a 6-year-old may be friends with anyone who is from the same sex and age and willing to play with them. Later, by age 10, children are going to demand more from their friends. So we're going to see some sort of a secret code of ethics between them. You're expected to be loyal to your friend. You're expected to stay friends forever. Breaking friendships is very hard. Making new friendships is very hard. And that's why when parents divorce or relocate, it becomes really hard for children to adjust at school, because of that factor of being accepted and making new friendships. So it becomes really traumatic sometimes to children when that occurs. They also seek friends who share their interests and values, and almost always from the same sex or age or ethnicity. So that group identity kind of shines during this stage. Children tend to understand more about their social identities and tend to gravitate more towards people who share the same social identities as they do. So, who makes up popular and unpopular kids in American society? Popular kids is bound by culture and, of course, cohort, and sometimes the local region or school. So, what might be a popular behavior in one country might not necessarily be the same in another country. In the United States, for example, we do not really think of a shy child as a popular child. We think of children who are friendly and cooperative are going to be popular. And sometimes towards the end of middle childhood, other behaviors start to become attractive to children or to child culture, and that is a child who defies authority. The quest to become independent and to be separated from adults might drive a child to see a child who has a dominant demeanor or aggressive behavior or a bully, um, someone who is attractive or worthy of friendship or worthy of being close to. Now, there are three types of unpopular children on the other side. Some are neglected, not rejected, they are ignored, but not shunned. These other two types that are rejected um, become the foundation for later bullying. So neglected children are usually the children that are basically there. They are not actively rejected by their peers. They're ignored. They're not shunned. They do not enjoy school because they are just kind of there. They went through the years of their elementary schools and nobody really took notice of them. They just they existed. They might be actually a group of them, and they tend to gravitate towards each other, but they kind of know that they are, they just, nobody psychologically intentionally harmed them or bullied them. However, the other two that are actively being rejected are two types. There is the withdrawn rejected child, and there is the aggressive rejected child. The withdrawn rejected child is a child that is disliked by their peers because of their demeanor, because of their timid, withdrawn, anxious behavior, and that's why they are not popular, and they are an easy target. Let's put it this way. So they tend to get rejected and bullied. The aggressive rejected child is also a rejected child, but that's because of their aggressiveness and their confrontational behavior. So they also tend to be rejected and actively disliked by their peers. Which brings us to what could happen if these children get rejected? Well, rejection can be psychologically harmful, or it could be physically also harmful. So, bullying is the kind of like the next step after rejecting a child. Bullying is defined as repeated, and I stress the word repeated because it has to be continuous, systematic effort to inflict harm through physical, verbal, or social attack on the weaker person. So when a bully chooses their victims, they do not choose them just because. They really do target ones that appear to have a vulnerable demeanor. They appear to be alone, socially isolated from others, because a bully fears groups. So a bully will not target a person who is surrounded by a support group, by a friend. Even one friend can prevent a person from becoming a victim. So bullies tend to choose their victims wisely. They target them because they know that they can actually attack them without triggering some reverse attack. We tend to see that bullies themselves are victims because they use their bulliness as a social dominance. So they themselves do not have a well-developed social, empathetic demeanor. They actually are trying to get attention sometimes because they themselves feel threatened from the inside or have been bullied by somebody else, and the cycle just continues. Bullies are skilled at avoiding adult awareness, and that's why they pick their targets and their victims very carefully. And if they are faced with a person who has the ability to stand up to them and to stop their bullying, chances are they can cut them off. Um, Bullies tend to be more um, physically involved when it comes to males than females. Females tend to bully using words or using social isolation. Boys bully more than girls in general. However, the vehicle they use or the tool they use is also different, as you saw. So, who makes a victim? Well, neglected children, as we said, are children that exist in the school system. They are not victimized. They are pretty much ignored. They just fly under the radar. Nobody really cares about them enough to bully them. Let's put it this way. The other two types, however, the withdrawn rejected and the aggressive rejected, are the foundation for bullies. So, withdrawn rejected children are often the victims because of that, like we said, that isolated, withdrawn demeanor that makes them an easy target because the bully sees in them a person who cannot fend for themselves and does not have someone to fend for them. Aggressive rejected children are called bully victims because those are kind of attacked from both ways. They attack others and themselves they are attacked. So because of their aggressive nature, they try to strike to no success, and because they try to success to try to strike, they suffer twice, being abused and being abusive. So that's why another term for them is bully victims. Bullying, like we said, tends to be in different forms based on gender. Not to say that it cannot be seen in both genders, but typically physical bullying is more known for boys, and that takes on the form of hitting or pinching or kicking. And verbal bullying is the use of words, teasing and taunting and name calling. Relational also tends to be another type of psychological harm because it destroys that friendship or that peer acceptance. And remember, social rejection is a major kind of rule or part of middle childhood. So a child who suffers being rejected or not accepted or not befriended might be suffering emotionally, and that is just as painful as being abused physically. Cyberbullying tend to also be common. Of course, you will see it more common later in adolescence. Nonetheless, we are with the improvement with technology and the access to technology at a younger age. We're seeing this uh, kind of evolve or become a problem even at earlier ages, and that is, of course, using electronic tools like your phone or the internet or Facebook or any of those apps and social media platforms where kids can actually do harm by posting things about the person or starting a rumor and circulating that. So, what causes bullying and what are the consequences of it? Well, the causes are both nature and nurture together. So, genetically, a person who is aggressive is a person who has a brain that is predisposed to that aggressiveness, to that abnormality. And of course, you take that and you couple it with a parenting style that might have been harsh, might have been more of the authoritarian type, that or even worse, more of a physically abusive household that did not help the child regulate themselves emotionally at the early stages, at during toddlerhood. It will eventually come back and become a problem in middle childhood. So it takes practice. It's a chain of reaction that starts very early from the day the child is born to grow a bully. So that's why when we look at the lifespan, we look at where can we interfere, where can we interject and stop something from becoming a bigger problem later on. And if you guys remember, when we talked about middle childhood, when we talked about early childhood, I said that this is the time when you interfere to stop bullying. Yes, in early childhood. Yes, during those interactions between 4 year olds and 3 year olds and 5 year olds, because those interactions are going to help the child become emotionally regulated and develop empathy and see that how it feels to hurt someone else or to make them a victim of our actions. Of course, peers can either support or stop bullying. Remember, if you even having one single friend with a person who might be perceived as a potential victim can stop a bully or can have a bully think twice about their actions and can prevent them from falling prey. Age is a crucial factor. Bullying is disliked in childhood. Not a lot of parents really take notice of it. They might think of it as funny or cute. Teachers are not trained to catch it, but by age 10 and 11, we start to see it becoming a social status, and sometimes it might be the reason why a child is popular. So if you have again, a support system, or you have a household that is in tune with what's happening with your child at school, you might be able to actually stop that and prevent it from going further. So what is successful to prevent it, to eliminate it, to stop it? It has to be a mindset. It has to be a whole school system being involved in growing empathy, intervening, and helping children understand the feeling of the other person that is being victimized, helping them understand that as a group you can support each other and speak up against a bully, that as a support system you have authority that can back you up if this happens. You must interfere and then evaluate the results and then adjust. But what doesn't work from statistics and from research is to simply increase the awareness of bullying by, implementing something like awareness, bully awareness week, or a commercial about awareness. That's wonderful, but that's not going to help unless you give the children tools to problem solve and speak up their minds and empower them themselves. One, not to become bullies. Two, not to become passive when they see a bully. And three, to stand up for themselves. Instituting a zero tolerance for fighting. What does that mean? You're not tolerating fighting, and the result is that you're saying both of you are going to be sent home, or going to be expelled. What is that teaching the child who has the problem, and what is it teaching the child who is bullying? Both of them have problems that need to be addressed. Putting bullies together in a therapy group doesn't work either. Telling calling in the parents or the guardian of the bully. What if that bully belonged to a household that was abusive? Then you're really sending that child who is supposedly having a hard time controlling their emotions back to where the problem is, back to a household that might be getting upset with the child acting like that at school and inflicting more harm on that child because of it. So those are some of the options that statistics tell us they don't work. What really works is a whole school approach to the problem.